It's self-care hour right now.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Grey Roots. Hey, I want to give a shout out
Cheers.
real quick to these two ladies. I mean, Alicia's sliding in. She's doing her own travel business, trying to get that up and running and showing up well for her family. Kathy is writing a book, has curriculum coming out already that she rewrote for preschoolers, you guys. And I'm over here just pulling my own stitches out. So we are boss women here
Yeah, we are.
showing up and sliding in here. So, anyway, glad to be here. Glad to be here with you girls.
Good to be
So I
here.
thought
Yes.
we would get started real quick, and maybe we do this every time of giving a quick shout out, just a quick little story or something to our daughter or daughter-in-law. Something she did this week or something you like about her or, you know, Alicia, you want to go first?
Um, I got a Facebook tag message from my youngest daughter-in-law, and I guess Starbucks is coming out with, like, this glass bear, um drink thing, right? It's like a what do you call it, tumbler or whatever, and it's in the shape of glass bear, and I guess it's coming out November 6th. And she tagged me, and I guess she follows this Starbucks group or whatever. She said, she tagged me. She's like, "We should go get these on November 6th together." And I thought, "Oh, that was really sweet."
I love that. Listen, I want to say to my sweet daughter-in-law, I have lots of them, but Emily, just this week it was my son's birthday and we were texting back and forth and she was just like, "When are we going to see you? Like, we want to have dinner. We want to get together. When are we
Mm,
going to do that?" And I
well,
just love that she's pursuing me just as much as I'm trying to be intentional about pursuing her.
absolutely. Yeah, that's great.
What about you?
I think I'll take today to shout out to Carly, my daughter. She was planning a birthday party for Roy. She came and got me on Friday. I can't do anything. I am sitting on the couch. I went to her house, spent the night. I can't help at all. And that was a really hard place to be for me. I just felt like that grandma in the corner that somebody comes and sits, sits next to and talks
Yeah.
to. But just to watch her get ready for this birthday party for like 40 people are coming. And it was interesting because she said, "You know what, mom, like this is a good place for me to be because it allowed her to grow." She said, "It's allowing me to grow and realizing how much you actually do and how much I
Mhm.
depend on you."
Oh, yeah.
So for me to just not be able to do, just to be there to, she was like, should I do this? Or should I put this here? Just to be there to help her kind of talk through those things, but not physically able to do anything. It was really good for her to have that perspective. And, I think about as moms and mother-in-laws, sometimes we step in a lot and it
Yeah.
doesn't allow them to grow. That was a good perspective, and she knocked it out of the park. It was great, and to see the pride as everybody left in her to have her and Benjo, they did such a good job to be like, "That was awesome. I did it. Yes, you did." And then she came over yesterday and worked in the garden and planted my garlic for me and
Aw.
dug out in the garden, so, shout out to you, Carly girl. I love you and adore you. That that is that. All right, so we are going to do 2 parts, part 1, part 2 of The Girlfriend. We will continue it next week, so come back for that part, but part 1, we're gonna dive into this show.
I was going to say, if you have not watched The Girlfriend and you want to, put a pin in this because we are going to be having some spoilers in here. We're going to be talking about the whole thing. So we don't want to ruin the movie for anyone. There are some twists and turns and things you don't expect. So that's what I wanted to say about that.
This is not one of those shows I would have watched. It's just not my usual, and I'm not recommending anybody go out there and watch it. You guys can. You can say
Yeah, I
that.
think you should watch it. It's crazy.
But I'm not gonna say that. I don't hear that from me. However, the
Love that we're
reason
so
why
different. My kids
we
are the one who told
are.
me about it. My kids are the ones like, "Mom, have you seen it?"
Well, the reason why we are here is actually because one of our listeners had said that her mother-in-law sent her this show and said, and nothing, no disclaimer, nothing about it. And she was asking us, "Hey, you guys, like my mother-in-law sent me this. What do you think?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I haven't watched it." So I think you and I were watching it at the same time, Kath,
Yeah.
and we just started texting back and forth like, "Oh my gosh, I cannot believe this. This is fascinating. And can you believe that they did this on this side?" So first of all, let's start out with the players. The
Yes.
first player is Cherry. She's the girlfriend. From the beginning scene, it's from Laura's perspective. I love that part, how they do that. What do we know about Cherry and what do we think about her in the beginning?
Okay, this is just me, right? But for the first time that she meets his parents, the first impression, and I think Jeff kind of concurred to me, I was like, where's the rest of her clothes? And why is she wearing that to a meet the parent dinner? And immediately that brings, preconceived ideas to me of her character. That was the first
For
thing that I
sure.
thought. And I'm like,
Right. So, yep.
Holy cow. Now it's the setting is in London, England, right? So, I don't know if it's London, but it is England. Maybe that's they're used to dressing a little bit more revealing, there. Like, that would not have gone over well here at this house. In fact, I did have one of my boys bring a girl home and ended up nobody liked her, and she did dress like that, and, we were all just kind of, like, jaw dropped, like, "What are you doing?" Anyway,
So a little bit, she brought some of that on herself by immediately wearing something that kinda
I
says something
did
about her.
anybody else think that? Is
Oh,
it
yeah.
just me?
Oh, no,
What
I
about you, Kath?
agree. I thought from the get-go, wow, that's an interesting outfit to choose
Choice
to
of
meet the parents, right?
right, right.
Because it's not something where you're out at a bar, you were going to a,
She wasn't going on a date.
nightclub. She
Right.
literally was going to the house to meet the parents for the first time, and you have lots of options for that. You have
Right.
lots of options, and so that was a I think it set the stage for the rest of the story, in my opinion.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I don't know if we should insert this now, but so now fast forward to the end of the movie, knowing all that we know about her, could there be a alternative reason for dressing like that that she wasn't meaning to do that, be that way? Is there a reason with her trauma? Maybe she lacks discretion, her mom didn't really maybe teach her I don't know. Go ahead, Alicia.
I have a theory. So, I think she's got daddy issues, which we find out in the movie she does, and it was mentioned that there were things that her dad did. We don't know what it was. It wasn't disclosed, to her and her mom, but regardless of what it was, absolutely she has daddy issues. I don't think it's the mom, like, not teaching her, like, the mom was always, like, very down to earth, very modest. The mom was always protecting her, but I think she knew exactly how she was dressing, and she was trying to get some control and power of the situation, knowing that if she dressed like that, she could command the attention at least of the men. Maybe,
Mhm.
and this is just a maybe she was actually thinking that she could kind of one up the mother-in-law. I don't know. I mean, as we get older, our bodies are older, our
Yeah.
face is older. We don't look like that anymore, y'all. Surprise, I know. Don't
Yeah.
tell my husband. Right? But, I
Yeah.
mean, that could also have been a motive.
See, I
Or
don't know if they
maybe
were oh, go ahead.
maybe we agree, Kath, maybe she didn't have those kind of motives. Maybe she wasn't even thinking that's just who she is, and this is
That's
just
what
what
I
she
would
wears.
that's
Yeah.
kinda what I was thinking. She dressed like that all the time. It's not like she
That's true.
dressed differently at work or anything. She dressed like that, and there are some people who just they dress differently. I mean, some wear an open low-cut shirt, some don't. So, I mean, I don't know. That to me, that wasn't a shocking part of this story. There's so much
Mhm.
more.
Well, there is so much more than that.
I do
Absolutely.
think
Yes.
it was something that
Absolutely.
I noticed for sure, but I think it was just the tip of things.
For sure.
Yes. So let's keep going. So in that opening episode, it goes into comes out the bracelet, the whole bracelet
Yes.
issue. We're like, oh my gosh, she stole it. Just several things that were like, and then she talks about the art, and Laura notices that she actually just got that information from the book that's like sitting on the table. So there's already suspicion in season one. So Cherry, all right, what do we else do we think? She's a successful businesswoman. She's in real estate. We think she's got it all together. She's gorgeous.
Ooh,
Anything
see, I
else?
don't have that impression of her from the get-go.
Okay,
I
go
didn't
ahead.
either.
What's your
I thought she was a hot mess from the
okay?
get-go. I
I
mean,
agree. I
Okay.
agree with that.
I think that she definitely worked in real estate and she was a hustler. Like, she came
Mhm.
across as a hustler to me.
Yeah, especially when her boss is like,
Yeah.
ah,
Yeah,
yeah,
jumping in,
okay.
taking the client and that kinda stuff, so she seemed kinda from the get-go she knew how to work the system to get what she wanted.
Mhm,
That's
And maybe
kind
mhm.
that's
of
why she was dressing like that.
That's kind of the take I got
Yes,
from
yeah,
her. I
yep.
mean,
Okay.
I didn't have a, opinion was she the evil part of the story or not. I just thought, "Oh, this girl's a hustler.
Yeah.
She goes and gets what she wants." That's just how she
Mhm.
came across to me, and she was feisty. Like, from the get-go,
Yes.
seemed
Yes.
feisty and kind of not rough around the edges, but yeah, rough around the edges a bit too
Mhm,
in
mhm.
that social
Yes.
setting.
You could tell she
Right.
didn't come from money, but she was trying to exude the persona that she
Correct.
had money.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. And so from the get-go, when she meets the parents, she's already like, she's got these one-liners. She's not afraid. She's got these comebacks already, rather than kind of in a posture of humility and respect for the parents. She's already like, I got this. I don't need you. So let's go to Laura, the mom. All I saw was the princess from Princess Bride
That's funny.
initially. But so what do we know about her from the beginning? Because the first episode goes from her perspective. What do we know about Laura? What kind of person is she in the beginning?
From the to me, she seemed from the initial episode, someone who was suspicious immediately. Was this girl gonna be good enough for her son? She seemed a bit overprotective, a bit like when she's in the, sauna and putting her foot on her son, like, that seemed a little, like, gross to me, like, that was over like, the boundaries were crossed there in that
Oh my gosh,
relationship.
and when they kissed?
Yeah, I wasn't sure
Yeah, we'll
where
talk.
right. It
Yeah.
was kinda like, "Where is this
What are we
going?"
doing?
Like, for a minute, I was like, "Wait, is there more to the story?" I'm glad there
Mhm.
that was kinda where it stopped, but still it was over the line in my opinion. So she seemed
Yeah,
too
definitely.
involved in her son's
Yes.
life from the get-go.
Yeah,
Yes, for sure.
very enmeshed relationship, and
Mhm.
we'll talk about that in our next week's podcast, with Lauren to dive into that a little bit more. That creepy relationship.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
that
Alicia.
was yeah, I was gonna say
But
that
I
go ahead.
understand some of it. No, no, you go.
I was just gonna say my first perspective of her, was kind of how you were describing Cherry, that she was a woman that commanded attention, respect. She did have all her stuff together. She dressed smart. She was a businesswoman. She was very successful with her career. Now we find out later that not all that is quite
Mhm.
true, but that was my impression of her. And she is used to this is one thing that I thought is that she's used to getting what she wants, which
Also,
as we find out later is also true, and people are jumping through hoops so that she can get it, and she doesn't even know that's happening.
Yep.
But that was go ahead, Kath. What were you gonna say?
Yes.
no, I was gonna say that I do believe we find out do we find out in the first episode that about her trauma of losing a daughter?
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
very quickly, actually end up having empathy for Laura because of that loss. Because, I've lost a child, and I know once I lost a child, I became irrational with my relationship with my other children, especially around their safety, around their, plans.
Yeah.
I definitely find myself and I'm not putting my foot on my son or mooching him on the face or mouth like that, but I do get kind of irrational about their safety and about their well-being and about who they're involved with, and I wasn't like that before, so
Yeah.
Mhm.
that is one of my
I
main takeaways about this whole thing is that both women had major trauma that influenced the way that then they reacted towards each other and towards Daniel. They both
Mhm.
treated
Yes.
Daniel differently and handled the situation because of trauma.
Yeah, absolutely. So what makes this story different than any other movie or show or portrayal of the mother and daughter-in-law relationship? Like why, for all of us, why did this stand out so much? And that's probably one of the reasons, Kath, what you just said is that we flip-flop between having empathy for this one and empathy for, oh wait, she's the bad guy. No, wait a minute. Ooh, I can relate. I can relate. And that's scary because they're taking it,
Yeah.
I feel like they take it to the extreme, but we also can relate to some of those feelings that could lead to that down the
Yeah,
road.
we're like,
Um,
"Oh, I get that. Oh, no, wait, I don't. Don't do that. That's like, oh,
right?
that's so much farther than what I would do." But yeah, we do get I think the biggest thing that they did with this production is that they did show the same story of what happened, like the same scenes of what happened, but from the perspective of Laura and from the perspective of Cherry. And so
It's fascinating.
it was very
Yes,
easy to see
brilliant.
how like somebody does one thing and the other person kind of hears another and they're like and because of their background, because of their trauma, because of their
Yes.
life beliefs that
Mhm.
they have because of their previous life, like, you're like, "I could see how she saw that. Oh, I could see how she"
Right.
but the reality is it was probably somewhere in the middle, right? I
Yes.
mean
Yes, when Laura
Yes.
walks up and Cherry's outside with her ex-boyfriend and he's like, "I'm married,"
yeah,
I was like, "Oh, she did this and she's trying to get back," or, we make these assumptions
That shitty
that
first draft.
shitty first that absolutely seems true.
Mhm.
they are
And then
doing
when
that
you flip it,
all through the
yes,
episodes. Yeah.
I was like, when do I do that? I do that.
And
I
I think
do
you're
that.
so right, Alicia, that or whoever just said it, I'm not sure, that you find yourself having empathy for both of them in different scenes, and both of
Mhm.
them when they show that perspective, you're like, "Oh, yeah, I get it from her perspective," or when they flip it, you're like, "Oh, wait, I get it from her perspective." You didn't know who to root for in the story
Right!
Huh?
because you felt
Yes.
like, the first episode, you're like, "Wait, who's the crazy one? Right, who is it?" And, like, now, again, I don't agree that Cherry put the little kitty cat out the window. Like, that was a sign to me that Cherry was not necessarily a healthy individual if she's putting
Mhm.
someone's indoor cat outside to death. Now the cat
Right.
lives. Spoiler alert, the cat lives. But anyway, I do think they did a great job of helping you see that just like you said, Alicia, usually it's somewhere in the middle. And that's the part I think we should all take away in our own relationships when we're assuming. It's probably
Yes.
somewhere in the middle, you know?
And
Yeah.
how dangerous it can be when we make assumptions and then we act on those assumptions as if they're true.
That is exactly where the rub and the problem came, isn't it? Is that they not only made those assumptions, then they took the next step based on the assumptions. It's that next step that often led to destruction and pain
Yeah.
based on that not knowing, but assuming.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they took all their emotions and then they put them into action. And the
Yes.
emotions were not necessarily a correct reflection of what actually happened.
Mhm.
Which is the same story that we hear over and over and over of how that relationship gets to a point of being cut off. This
Yes.
gets to a point of being death, like somebody
Also,
dies.
spoiler alert.
Yeah, somebody dies. And it's not who you think or how it happens how you think it happens. But
Or
what
do
do
they
we do?
die? I've read that there's possible they left it open that could not be she could still be alive for a season 2. Just saying.
Oh, all right. I'm
Anyway,
in.
me too. You're in,
Yeah.
good for you.
So how what decisions and assumptions we make on a smaller level, obviously, they take it to the extreme, but then leads to cutting that relationship off. You can see that. You can completely see that.
And what's interesting is you have all these other players in the show. You have Howard and you have Isabella, the best friend, and they see things a little clearer and yet they don't. Like, they seem to be, persuaded by one side or the other to believe, and so, I think that even complicates things more. Laura's then trying to convince Howard, or she's trying to convince Isabella, and then Cherry comes along, and she's so good at connecting with Howard, and Brigitte, their the best friend, or the daughters of the best friend. I don't know, I think it just gets complicated because
Mhm.
everybody's trying to convince their friend that they're right and listen to me, and I
Right.
do you see what
Right.
I see? And I just thought that was interesting too, the
Yes.
way they had all these other players involved
Yes.
in
Isn't that
their
exactly how
chaos.
it happens?
Yes!
Right? I mean, isn't that
Because
right?
we get
I mean,
people, yeah.
yeah, you're like, "Everybody in my camp, listen to all the bad stuff," right? And I think we need to be careful with that because, like, I think just being aware that there is another side and nothing happens in a vacuum, right?
Mhm.
We were out to
Yes,
dinner
and
with
it
another couple last
right.
night, and he had just found out that he was gonna go to the F1 race in Texas.
Mhm, mhm.
They had these, like, $1,000 tickets, pit crew, like, the whole thing, and, the guy passed away. So,
Wait, what
obviously
guy passed? The guy that was going?
well, the guy's buddy who was
Okay,
gonna it was him and a friend, and the
okay.
friend died, and so, suddenly now, like, he's not going, but he's just received this information, and his daughter comes home, and he's interacting with her, and she makes a comment. She's like, "You are so grumpy," and it's kind of, like, prickly toward him because he's being
Mhm.
grumpy to her, but she has no idea that he just found out this information.
Mm.
Right? Like, I mean, if she knew that, she
Mhm.
probably would have approached the whole situation very differently.
Mhm.
Anyway,
For
I just
sure.
thought that kind of
Yeah, so going back to the extra people that are in it, Howard, Brigitte, and all of that, like, lack of boundaries. So they have an
Yeah.
open relationship. The husband and wife have
so
an
many
open
bad boundaries.
relationship, and, it's like, even for him, he wanted her love. He wanted her. She was just so distracted by her loss that,
And
and other
her,
things. She's
uh,
crazy, but
female girlfriend that she had before she got pregnant with Daniel.
mhm. Yeah, so many lack of boundaries in all of those relationships. Daniel and Brigitte, like, why are you putting sunscreen on her like that? Like, your girlfriend is here. That is so
Mhm.
weird.
Right, and why
Like,
are you
I would be
spending
mad
time with
too.
her
And
and
as
not your
women,
girlfriend?
we can relate, like, we can feel those feelings for Cherry in that
Yes.
situation. Like, oh, that would be so awkward to
Yeah.
be in that. Like, ooh. So we feel for her in that situation. And I love how brilliantly they did that, going back and forth to these really crazy women who did crazy things, but we can still have empathy for them in a way.
Uh-huh.
That the writing was just brilliant.
Well, in a way, too, these women, it was so much about control, right? They both
Mm,
Yes.
wanted control. They wanted to control the situation. They wanted to control the relationship with Daniel. They wanted to control the narrative. They fought. You would see when Laura would do something and side eye Cherry, like, I've got control now. Look at there. then Cherry would make out in front of Laura with Daniel and side eye her. And it was like, gosh, these two women just want to control. Meanwhile, Daniel's like, la, 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 la.
Yeah.
And
Oblivious.
you're like, "Wake it on up." But,
Mhm.
yeah, I thought that was another interesting thing just watching that battle for control, and I wonder if women in that daughters-in-law, mothers-in-law, they realize that that's what's happening too.
Mm.
That's really what's going on is you're battling for control of
Control.
your home, your family, your husband, her son. You're all battling for control, and is that really our role? Should we be battling for control?
So, on that note of control, from my perspective, I thought it was really interesting because the battle for control is obvious, but it seemed to me they were both battling for the same thing, right? So, Laura is his mom. Anytime you're trying to get control, it's out of fear. You're afraid, you have some sort of fear that something's going to happen, right? So, Laura's afraid she's going to lose her son.
Right.
Mhm.
Cherry is afraid she's gonna lose her boyfriends, right? They're both afraid of
Yeah.
losing the
Yes.
same thing.
So there's some similarities. There's some similarities
Yeah,
between the 2 women, a lot of
for
similarities.
sure.
Yeah, they were
Between
both loving
as
the same man.
daughter-in-laws or mother-in-laws, we think that, well, there's all these differences, and she's so different, and not necessarily. So I wrote down some things, assumptions, they made assumptions, we made
All throughout.
assumptions, we make assumptions, judgments, the same thing. Choices. These women had choices
They
in
did.
what to do with the trauma that they had from childhood or losing her daughter. She had choices to make. Get therapy. Don't get that, choices of how you handle certain situations and consequences. There are consequences to our actions, and
And
that
it
played
started
out.
little. Think about just the bracelet scene. What you don't see initially is that Cherry and Daniel had actually already been to that house. That's when she saw the name of the artist crossing boundaries.
People's stuff
But
definitely
I
not
do
in their
think
bedroom,
people do. So she
right?
tries on that bracelet, but instead of going to Daniel and saying, "Oh my gosh, I tried on your mom's bracelet," and being honest right then, she hid it, and that one mistake hid, that made a bigger mistake, and then a bigger mistake because then she had to cover up that lie, then that lie grew and had to cover that up, and the
Group.
issue grew because of one tiny decision. It led to a bigger decision problem, then a bigger that ultimately.
The lie just snowballs.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Makes me think of that
Right.
little Veggie Tales show. Did your
Yes!
kids ever?
Oh my gosh, I was thinking about
Yes.
that too. Yeah.
Yeah, it just grows and grows, the weed grows.
Yes. The
Yeah.
rumor weed.
Yeah, the rumor weed, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. They both had trauma. There's trauma. Everybody
Yes.
had trauma. The husband has trauma. The son has trauma, and fear. I think you said that, Alicia. Everybody operated out of fear of losing
Yes.
something or someone at some point, and we very much can relate to that for
Yeah, no
sure.
one was ever given the benefit of the doubt,
Right. Never.
you know?
By
It always
anyone.
was
I
yeah.
mean,
Mm-mm.
by anyone in the series.
No. I mean, if I could sum the whole thing up, I would say, like, it is just a plethora of crossed boundaries and bad decisions.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, everybody like, so many
Yeah.
boundaries that were just, like, way out. Way, way,
Well,
like, so
and
far
trauma
gone.
that was never dealt with, like
Yes.
Yeah.
Howard, Daniel, none of them had
Yeah.
dealt with that trauma, it didn't seem. Anyone had really
Mhm.
Cherry, her mom even, no one
Her
had
dad
really or
Yeah.
yeah, the dad, that was an
Right.
interesting addition, yeah.
Yes. So good stuff. We are going to dive in deeper to the son's relationship with his mom, with Lauren on our next episode. So tune in next week. If you haven't watched that, well, spoiler, but
If
you
you
have
haven't, we've
time.
just told
Yeah.
you it all,
Now
yeah,
you know with some of
yeah.
what happened.
yeah.
But we will see you
Still
guys
worth
back
a
next
watch
week.
though, because you still will not
Absolutely.
believe it. Even if we've told you a lot of it here, I think you still will
Yeah.
be shocked when you're watching it. And I think it's an interesting watch if you were in a relationship with a mother-in-law or daughter-in-law that is currently struggling, because it just might help you realize that, oh, wait, maybe I'm not looking at the full picture from someone
Mm,
else's perspective. And so I do think it's a good
great.
self-aware TV
You
show.
know what?
Yes. Yes. Great.
Maybe that's what our listener was trying to maybe that's what her mother-in-law was trying to say. You know, when you started, Carrie, and you said we had somebody that said, "My mother-in-law sent me this show to watch, and I watched it, and I don't know what to do with that." Maybe that was now I feel they should have a now that they've both watched it, have a conversation about it, right? But
Yeah,
maybe the mother-in-law was trying to show her, "Listen, there are different perspectives, and everything that I'm doing isn't necessarily with a malicious intent." Just a
I
thought.
hope.
I
Wouldn't
don't know.
I hope that's why she sent it, right? Like, that
Yeah.
would
Yeah, maybe that is
yeah,
why.
Well, to be fair, she should have that conversation and not just assume,
100%. Yeah.
right.
because
Because
that's
you
just
could
what
make
it
a
Either
should
lot
be.
of
ways.
different
I
assumptions.
mean, either way,
She should
right?
say, "I watched it. That was a lot. Why did you want me to watch it? May I
Right.
ask?"
Should I
That
watch
would
my
be
back
good
at
because
night? Should I sleep with a guy?
if not, she's never gonna jump in a pool again. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that around. Excuse me, back around. That is a good ending to this. We will continue on this conversation next week with
Yeah.
Lauren talking about the son's relationship and enmeshment, especially if you have these kind of relationships in your family, you guys. Go to greyrootspodcast@gmail.com and send us a message, a question, and that is a
Subscribe
safe
and
place to
like.
go. Subscribe
Subscribe
and
and
like.
like.
You know where to go. Excuse me. See you all next week. Bye, girls.
Bye.
Bye.